Hi everyone, welcome to my author channel. So if you are new to me and you don't know what I'm going to talk about or who I am, I'm a science fiction and fantasy author, and I've been writing full-time since 2009, and my main focus is sci-fi and also fantasy, specifically epic fantasy. So I'm going to speak today. You can watch all my videos on my books. I tried not to give too many spoilers because I'm trying to encourage you to actually go and buy the books. And so I've spoken about The Door, which is my sci-fi short story that has really great reviews. All my links, by the way, guys, if you go to the about on my channel, you'll find all my social media links and my book links there for you to go and find me, okay? And also read my reviews. So I've spoken about The Door, which is my sci-fi short story. I've spoken about my recent novel, Avalon, A Vampire Legend, which was just my take on vampires and how they came to be on Earth. And because I'm a sci-fi author, I just mixed a whole lot of sci-fi in there. So it's quite a different look and take, and it's basically, it is a powerful love story as well, and there's a lot of energy, a lot of adventure and action to it as well. And then my sci-fi book called The Girl from Space, I originally published a couple of years ago with a publisher who shall never be mentioned because I did not have a very good experience with them. And I've done a revised edition that is going to be coming out very, very soon, depending on when you watch this video. I would say about mid-April. I'm going to be republishing it with a brand new cover. And I've also made a video on that. So for each of my books so far, I've made videos. But now, today, I'm going to be speaking about my epic fantasy series. So my very first writing adventure was for my epic fantasy series called The Swordbearers. Swordbearers for me began with me going to see Star Wars when I was about 8 years old. So it's when the very first Star Wars came out in like 1978. Oh, just giving away my age. I was 8 years old and I was blown away. Now, I was an only child, so I lived, growing up in South Africa, we only got television like in the mid or late 70s, okay? We had it much later than like America. So I was raised on reading. I was raised on books and comic books, especially superhero books. So my imagination was crazy, and I really believed that reading and stories, but like that visceral book, that you hold in your hands, those reading of stories created and expanded my imagination. But when I saw Star Wars, my imagination it just exploded. I'm so grateful to my mom because she's the one that took me. She's also a crazy sci-fi person. So, sorry, there's a helicopter going over. So I saw Star Wars, and of course with Princess Leia, I was an only child, and my personality, I'm a tomboy. I loved climbing trees and getting dirty in the mud, and I had a lot of boyfriends. Okay, not boyfriends, boyfriends. And I used to play things like, we had games in South Africa called Cops and Robbers and Cowboys and Indians, and so and I was always like the male figure, and so I was a adventurous person. And so when I saw Princess Leia, and she's like this tough broad, with a gun, and she defies the evil Darth Vader, and how sassy she was and things like that, it was like me to a T. Okay, I just felt like I was embodying Princess Leia. I'm sure Princess Leia, also climbed trees, and imagined her doing all those crazy things and giving her parents gray hairs, because that was me. I was crazy and wild. And the Swordbearers was actually born then. So if I had to think back, it was created there, the start of it, the spark of it. And as I moved through my life and I had my life experiences, I always had the story in my mind. Now, I got married And my husband, who is my biggest fan and supports me for everything that I ever want to do, he said to me, why don't you sit down and just start writing the story? Because you need to get it out on paper. The world needs to read it. And I had kind of been messing around with it before, but I hadn't really decided if I wanted to do it. But he made me do it. And I'm so grateful that he did. So I wrote the initial story of Sword Bearers, and it was like this purging. It was like this getting out this incredible story out onto paper and telling the story and expanding it and creating my characters. And slowly I started creating this entire world and other worlds, because without giving away too much, Sword Bearers starts with the main character, Kairi, okay? And she's also this rebel, like kind of like a rebel. She's not interested. She's a princess, but she's not interested in becoming a queen. She rides out in the forest. She hunts. She fights. She gets dirty. You know, she drives her carers crazy, and you know, so it's me. It's basically me. But what happens? The terrible things that happen to her and her life, and how everything gets turned upside down one day, just like out of the blue, okay? And what develops from that. Originally, I wrote 4 books, and they were tomes. I mean, we're talking 700-page books, okay? Because that's me. I don't write stories, small stories. I have incredible detail in my stories without making my readers bored, because I believe in very fast-paced stories. I don't sit there and go through 60 pages of exposition and backstory and things like that. I need to keep things moving. And I taught myself as much as I could to express the story, this powerful story, and get it out onto paper, but with as much action and adventure in it as possible. So basically what the Sword Bearers is, it is plural because it is based on these swords of legend that are actually, they're not physical swords. They're like an energy, an entity, a sentient power that resides within their bearers, okay? And Kairi is one of the sword bearers, and then her brother is the other sword bearer, but there's an opposite, okay? So he starts off being a protagonist, and then he ends up being an antagonist, and that's all I'm going to say. Okay, I don't want to give too much away. So those people who have already read the Sword Bearers, the original books, know the story. But what I decided to do in 2016 was I wanted to revise them, because as the years passed, I became a much better writer, and I became much better at expressing myself, and also I'm a very, very good character builder. Okay, so my characters are very deep, intellectual, spiritual beings. Okay, they are like real life. I mean, you can identify with each of those characters like they're real people. They are not superficial, and that is why I spent years perfecting them and perfecting the story. And Kairi is very complicated. She's a very complicated character, and she goes through tremendous things in her life, like crazy ups and downs. And she's surrounded by her family and her friends and the people she meets, and her world and her kingdom. And the story starts, or what I can tell you is the story starts on her world, and then from books 4 to 10, we go out into the galaxy, okay? And the adventure happens in the galaxy of Navarda, okay? And it's a huge, enormous tale with so many characters in it, and so many worlds and languages and beliefs and things like that. So I've really created a super epic fantasy story that will blow your mind. And because of Star Wars, it's that feel. So when I write fantasy, I don't have I'm not going to say I don't have dragons, because the main antagonist is, well, he's like a demon. He's a demon, okay? So he can, his true form is this, evil dragon, demon, okay, looking creature. But he walks the earth as a man, okay, which is a very powerful part of the story. So the story has got that Star Wars feel to it, as opposed to fairies and wizards and magic. Okay, so there is a lot of supernatural in it. There's a lot of magic. There's all of that power and energy in it, but it's built around all these incredible characters, and it is dynamic. It is fast-paced, as I said, and anybody reading the stories, male, female, can really resonate with every single character in it, because there's a part of them inside each of these characters. Okay. Sorry if I've rambled a bit, because my brain goes like all over the place. Sword Bearers is going to be republished as a 12-book series, and they are full books. Okay, so I've expanded. Each of the original 3 books had 3 parts to it, and each of those 3 parts are turned into a standalone book. Some are shorter than others, but each book with a title represents exactly what happens in each of those books. And so books 1 to 3 happens on Kairi's world. As I said, books 4 to 10 goes out into the galaxy, and then the last 2 books she returns and basically completes her life purpose, her destiny. And there are lots of twists and turns. There are a lot of surprises as well. And as I said, it's fast-paced action. It's got that Star Wars energy. There's a lot of Game of Thrones energy in it as well, okay? It's very political. It's very, there's literally everything in it. And my most exciting part is that I've created a language called Old Tongue. So I spend a heck of a lot of time perfecting that as well. So for those of you who are interested, I hope you are, just keep a lookout for the books. I'm going to be speaking about each book as I publish it here on my channel. I'm going to go into a little bit of the synopsis without giving too much away, because at the end of the day, I want you to buy the book and read it. Okay, so tell me what you think. If you want to hear more about my writing process, if you want to hear more about my books, if you want me to speak about Evelyn, a Vampire Legend, a little bit more. So Evelyn, even though it's got the sci-fi feel, it's also got a little bit, it's got a lot to do with, as I said, with vampires. There's a horror, and it's like a whole mishmash of genres. And I did this for fun, for NaNoWriMo many years ago. Okay, sorry about helicopters. I don't know what's going on today. So I'm really looking forward to sharing my work with you. I'm looking forward to being an approachable author as well. I don't think a lot of authors actually get onto a video and have conversations with their readers. So if you're interested in finding out more, if you want me to go into more detail, if you want me to speak about the characters, then please let me know. Okay, and I look forward to it. I will see you in my next video. And I think I'm going to speak about book 1. And I can tell you right now that book 1 of the Sword Bearers is called The Demon. All right, so get excited, because it is an incredible start to the story. I'll see you next time, guys. Bye.